you do. No, you do.
We're having a party down there, Mayor.
Excuse me.
Fixing things over here.
As we call our meeting to order tonight, we've got just a little special treat for the audience and for the council and for people who may be watching at home. We've got a very special guest with us tonight that is going to help us with the pledge to the flag. And I'd like to ask former Mayor Sames if she would please introduce our guest. We had a conversation about this at Karen's suggestion. Karen, go ahead.
Well, I'd love to introduce Lauren Young. Lauren, if you want to come up to the podium. I have known her and her parents now for a couple of years, and I have always been impressed by Lauren. But after what she did, took on an initiative all on her own to get the pledge back into the high school. Because when I was in high school, I remember saying the pledge, and I was shocked that the pledge wasn't being said. So she went on her own to get a petition to start the pledge back into our local high school. It has inspired me. It was things like that, leadership at your age, that turns us into great citizens. So we really appreciate that. And I asked the mayor if she could come and start us off because she inspired me. And she has inspired a lot of people in the city of Georgetown and Scott County. And we're so very proud of you. Thank you. So we'll all stand and let you start the pledge.
It was, I thought her initiative was so important at Scott County High School. At the Bevins Motor Company ribbon cutting this week, Lauren led the pledge to the flag there. So she agreed to join us tonight. Lauren, what we'll do is we normally have a moment of silence, and then at the conclusion of that, we'll ask you to lead us in the pledge to the flag.
Sounds good.
Shall we pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lauren.
And Lauren, would you like to introduce the two nice folks you're with tonight?
These are my parents. This is my father, David, and this is my mother, Michelle.
Gotta be very proud.
And if you'd like to stick around for some real civic education,
Maybe.
And if you get bored, you'll be gone in 30 minutes.
Unless you're last on the
We don't have
agenda, right,
that
Bob?
All right. Shall we call the roll?
Mr. Bradley?
Here.
Mrs. Conway?
Here.
Mrs. Singer-Erdley?
Here.
Mr. Lesby?
Here.
Mr. Showalter?
Here.
Mrs. Tingle-Sames?
Here.
Mrs. Tackett?
Here.
Mr. Thompson?
Here.
We have a quorum. Each of you should have a copy of the minutes from our last regularly scheduled meeting of April the 13th. If you'd like to take a moment to look those over for any possible corrections or additions.
Millie?
On 13, it states that motion for approval was made by Council Member Thompson and seconded
By
by
Thompson. I was
by
really in
Thompson.
the mood that
He
day.
was real busy.
He was enthusiastic.
He was.
I don't remember.
Good catch.
Was that? I think it was Connie.
That might have been Connie.
I think Ms. Tackett was the second.
I think Marvin and I were sliding in for first.
Yeah, and I won.
Yeah, you did.
Twice.
In fact, I conceded to you, so, you know, but that's okay.
So who's on first? Okay. With that correction noted, is there a motion for the minutes approval?
I make a motion.
Thank you. Motion's been made. Second. Ms. Conway? There are no other corrections. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Each of you should have a copy of the check register in your packet. Everybody would indicate that they've received their check register. Thank you. We are at that portion of our meeting when we have public comments. And at this point, we have Megan Funk.
Hello again. I feel like I'm always here. I just wanted to let you all know that on May 21st, Georgetown Main Street will be hosting the Taste of Georgetown. I believe you all may have the event application there. And I also wanted to let you all know that we've submitted the state encroachment permit to close a portion of Main Street between Broadway and South Court Street. And I would just like your all's permission to close Court Square, but to maintain the access from North Court Street to West Court Street so that people can still navigate through there for the businesses and such.
Okay.
I make a motion for approval.
Motion's been made.
Second.
We have a second, Mr. Thompson. Any questions for Megan? Not all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That was your easiest appearance before the
Yeah,
council.
that's very nice. I did want to let you all know, we've started working on a mural project. It's going to take place on South Court Square between Leanne's and Doug Smith's realty store. And so we just wanted to let you all know, we've started talking with the building owners as well as with LexArts about how they conduct their mural projects. And so you all might see some exciting things start to happen downtown in the next few months.
Yeah, that could really dress up that alleyway.
We have an idea in mind, but we are going to look for some artists to fulfill the idea, and then they'll submit final proposals. So we don't really know what it'll be yet, but we're excited about it.
Great. Thank you, Megan.
Thank you all.
Dwayne Ellison.
So, come to you again about the Findlay 5K. I want to invite Chief up if I could. When we were here, we were talking about the maybe looking at the course and altering the route a little bit from what the normal 5Ks do. And Chief and Captain Swanigan have been great about working with us and throwing some ideas together. We met a few times and kicked some ideas around, and he's got these drawn up for you guys to take a look at. Chief, I'm going to get out of the way and let you.
Okay. Right now, we run our races through the neighborhood, starts on Memorial, and it goes back into the neighborhood, and we keep it in the neighborhood because we're able to staff the race with about 5 officers and about 4 or 5 of our crossing guards. That costs us about $923 for each race that we do. And when you have 200 or 300 people, it's not a problem because there's plenty of room on that course. When you have a race as big as the Findlay 500, you have over 1,000 people, and the course gets really crowded because it doubles back on itself, and there's an element of safety of people running into each other. Dwayne had a really great idea about a race that big should incorporate more of our downtown business district. It's bringing people into downtown, and so we looked at his option, and we're good with it. But we needed to come to you because it will cost. That course will cost $2,171. So almost twice what we're paying right now on our regular route. But it also incorporates right down Main Street. I don't think it's going to be a problem for your business people because the way you've designed the course is within about 30 minutes we should be able to open Main Street back up. So even on a race day, it would only close down for about 30 minutes. When we start the race, it would come off Memorial, go down Main Street, and then come down North Hamilton. So, but it would incorporate your downtown Main Street area. We don't have a particular preference one way or the other, but because it was going to cost more money, we wanted to come to you all and see how you wanted to do that. We can absorb it into our budget. Now, I would suggest this. We have races where literally 50 people come and run them, and you don't want that kind of course with that number.
Maybe we have to limit that to a certain amount of participants to get that course.
I would definitely consider that to incorporate Main Street because it does take an encroachment permit because we have to close it down and that kind of thing. So.
As far as affecting the business, aren't most of these fairly early in the morning?
This one isn't. Finley's runs at night. on Saturday, so it's 6 o'clock on a Saturday, which most of the businesses at that time still are closed too, especially up to the point where you turn left on Hamilton. You wouldn't be, I don't think, I'll double check.
It's just that one, and it's just in that one block.
Yeah. And the hope, my hope is that then, you know, with that many people, and I think it happened a lot last year, we got hit with some rain right after it last year, but, you know, Galvin's and all those places down through there, there was a ton of people that went down there, and I think they had a band going that night, one of those courtyard deals, and I think a lot of people talked about it, so just incorporate the whole deal as much as we could. Because a lot of those businesses are already sponsors anyway, and we wanted to bring it right to them.
Gotcha.
Chief, we had previously reported back to the council as a result of your first appearance, Captain Swanigan and some of his folks had developed several different routes that were possible. And we knew our base route probably cost us around $925 to $950 for us to man one of those races. I guess the question for the council is, since we know there is a cost associated with doing these, there's a lot of civic pride in our hosting these, and some serve very, very good charitable purposes. Is it something that the council wishes our police department to provide at no charge, or just a policy question, or do we want to have an expectation that some of these costs be recovered if we have to go to a more expensive route for the city?
And just, you know, from my perspective on that, you know, it's kind of the way I see it. You know, at this point, it's as we grow, and we hope to grow even bigger, then it's my job as the race director to provide a route as best I can. And just like if I'm buying balloons or providing music, then part of my job is to raise money to make sure that we can have the best course possible too.
Right.
So at some point, you know, it can't be all on you guys to do that. So I think, you know, it's very fair for us to pay whatever, I don't know what the fairness, you know, percentage is or whatever, but the Finley 5K people are ready to try to raise money or whatever we got to do to make it work. You know, and I think, you know, some of those smaller 5Ks, though, they'll have a harder time in doing it. You know, it's kind of one of those things, you might have some sort of tiered type option for folks out there that you're probably going to have to look at, because one size is not going to fit all when it comes to the cost.
Well, we appreciate your all's awareness.
Sure,
of
I mean,
costs
it's
that are
part, you know,
involved
it's
with
part,
the
my,
city's
if I wanted the event, you know, we can't go around just, you know, expecting everything from everybody else. We've got to do the legwork. So, you know, we'll do whatever we got to do to make it work on our end.
And I wonder if the standard course that we offer, that requires the 5 officers and some input by Public Works that cost us around $925, might be a base rate, Chief, that we as a city are willing to absorb for a community group being willing to have a great event.
I think that's fair.
And then as we move beyond that base course, if it's reasonable for us to ask the race sponsors to help us with some of that additional cost, we don't want to have a chilling effect on the Family 5K.
Sure.
That's not our intent at all.
Right. And we, you know, I can't speak for other, you know, we know that, you know, and we've had nothing but great work by the police, and you guys have been very supportive. It's not that. We understand, you know, things cost. These people that are working their hours, they've got to be paid. And we want police officers to keep us safe. So, you know, that's part of the gig.
You know, I might go ahead to make the motion that we try the extended route, because this will be the first time we try that. Try that this year with yours at no additional fee for now, but under the understanding that if you all would like to donate something to the police department, they would be more than happy to take that, whatever that could be, and then that would give us time in the future, see how the race went, let the chief evaluate it, and then come back to us, and then maybe in the future we start actually doing a tiered or not.
And that may be in the form of
it.
volunteers for blocking some of these, because we talked about
Sure.
that.
Mm-hmm.
That would keep our costs down as well. And we certainly don't mind experimenting and tweaking this thing as we.
I think that's a good idea,
I
Karen.
think it is, yeah.
You make that motion?
That was an official
I'll
motion.
second it.
Motion's been made and seconded to allow y'all to have the race this year at no cost to the Family 5K.
Work with the chief.
If you'd like to work with the chief, that'd be appreciated. And then in subsequent years, depending on how this works, we'd be glad to talk with you more about this arrangement.
Sure.
But any donations would be accepted by the police department.
I know they're looking for a lot of help planting trees and stuff like the chief.
That's true. Landscaping?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Good luck.
Can I ask Dwayne a quick question? Hey, Dwayne, before you head out, real quick, did you say how many people would be involved in this race?
The last 2 years, we've had over 1,000 at the race. I'm trying to increase that, obviously, again this year.
I wonder how many came from outside of Georgetown.
I actually checked on that because a guy like you would ask me that. I'm the numbers guy. About 400.
Are you going to charge them a fee?
No.
Well, that's people coming in and spending money outside of the
that's
county.
True.
It was about 350 to 400 people outside of the county.
Yeah.
As far as outside of Georgetown itself, and there's several obviously outside of the county.
The way I look at it, there's a compensating value for that. And, it may be well above and beyond the $925. I don't really know, but anyway, like you were saying, if Galvin's fills up, if
Sure.
maybe somebody stays at a hotel or fills up their car with gas.
It is, I mean, we, because of Chrissy and I's, she's from Louisville, and I'm from Fleming County, and in Campbellsville, college folks. And we have a ton of folks come in from out of the thing, and the last 2 years, we've had several folks, obviously 100 from outside. So.
And a lot of them probably staying the night.
Several, yeah.
That's why, hotels and stuff. So.
And I know dozens of them came downtown because everybody wanted to talk about it. They love the downtown Georgia.
Well, that's good for the community, and we're appreciative.
So,
and it's a great thing you're doing.
Thank
you.
Thank you. That's all the public comments that we had signed up. Anyone else from the audience? Under mayor's comments, Chief, you had a police recognition?
We had, actually, Georgetown had a Citizens Police Academy for the last 10 years. And then about 5 years ago, things kind of slowed down and the growth stopped and we stopped having classes. And then about 3 years ago, we started bringing back to life our CPA program. Throughout all of that, Kathleen has stayed from the very beginning to right now with the CPA. She's there for photographs. She's there when we do the stuff for the kids on Halloween and Christmas. She's a very familiar face in the police department and the programs that we do. Not because she's on the one post. So we would like to give her this Allegiance Award, and it says, "In grateful appreciation for 10 years of outstanding dedication and service to the Georgetown Police Department and the Citizens Police Academy." Thank you.
No speech?
That'll work. Several things that I'd like to bring the council up to date on under the mayor's comments. First off, for any of you that have not been up Rucker Avenue in the last week or two, there's been a lot of work occurring on Rucker Avenue. Mr. Highlander has made outstanding progress on 159 Rucker Avenue that he's remodeling. There's a lot of new construction. The part of the house that had suffered fire damage has been repaired. The roof has been, they've cleaned off the roof. They've started going back with the roof. I believe that's going to be a first-rate renovation, and the neighborhood is going to have a good outcome. They've even gone so far now as when we had cleaned the lot, there were a lot of stubs left. They've even gone through now with the bulldozer and popped up all the stubs so they can rake it and get a stand of grass going. This there's great progress being made there. We will continue to monitor it and watch, but we expect that progress to continue on Rucker Avenue. A word about the Main Street clean sweep activity that we had Wednesday the 22nd during Earth Day. And I want to thank a number of you council members who were all suited up. Millie and Polly were all over downtown and others. We had a great turnout on that day with folks that came out to help clean up Georgetown. I think, Linda, we probably had more than a pickup load full of garbage bags, just from the downtown area. The Saturday before Earth Day, we had Crossroads Christian Church meet 4 or 5 of Linda's crews on a Saturday morning, and we paired up church volunteers with some of Linda's volunteers. They went to clean up the entrance signs to the city, worked on Maple Grove Cemetery quite a bit. And we continue to get traction on this. This past weekend, Faith Baptist Church, their congregation spent Sunday out doing beautification efforts at a number of schools and parks. So it's a lot of fun when you see a community respond to the council's initiatives this well. We're going to get Georgetown cleaner, and it's also worth noting that Stamping Ground in Sadieville had events going on at the same time. Scott County Fiscal Court helped us, so we had a day when taking care of our environment and our sense of place was really a top priority for us. An update on Cardone. We've talked about Cardone quite a bit. We took a tour and we saw some uglies, and since then we wanted you to know that Kyle has gotten us some cost estimates on shoring, on stabilizing the building, and we're evaluating those bids, what the cost is. We've got this $100,000 grant from the Kentucky Transportation Cabinet, and we want to use it wisely and for our best effect. Whether or not that's going to be some portion of it on this shoring plan and the balance on roof repairs, we're still feeling our way through that. We have received correspondence from the folks who currently hold the lease to Cardone, expressing their concern about these major repairs, and they are asking the question, is the city willing to undertake the cost of those major repairs? Their contract very specifically states that all maintenance and all repairs belong to those holding the lease. We have not yet responded to that letter. Andrew and I have discussed it in some detail, and we'll have a response pretty quickly. But I think our response is going to be to point out their contractual obligation and what their requirements are under the current lease that's in place. This will probably come to a head at some point in the not distant future. But we are doing our due diligence about getting estimates on the shoring plan and trying to make the right decision about roof repairs. Just wanted you to know that it continues to be on our plate. We have had correspondence from the leaseholder, and we'll have to talk about this more in the near future. Council for some time has had on its plate Icabana
Path.
Cabana Path.
Path. Thank you.
That's tough for me to say.
It's easy for you to say.
Well, it's been on our plate a long time. We got used to
Been
it.
on your plate a long time. For the new council members, council received a $100,000 contribution toward the construction of Icabana Path. We are holding those funds we are ready to build that road. There's no sense in delaying construction of that road. We're in final discussions with the bank that has an interest in the property to get some final sign-offs from them as current owner of the lot. And as soon as we can get those final documents signed, we're ready to build the road. There's no sense in delaying this further, and as soon as we can get the proper documents signed by the bank that now has a financial interest in the property, we'll let you know that that project is started.
Tom,
Yes,
what,
sir.
what would happen if the project goes over 100,000? Who's responsible for the remaining part of the road? Maybe that's
Marvin,
what
we're going to do our best not to
Okay.
let this project go
Okay.
over $100,000. We've got $100,000 to build the road. We're told that's adequate to build the road.
Okay,
So we're going to try our best not to
okay,
have to answer that question.
good. I hope we don't have to.
Now you know the answer to the question.
That's exactly right. Cable TV update. We have this on your agenda for second reading of the cable franchise ordinance later in the meeting. But I thought this deserves some special conversation up front, given what we've read in the national headlines about the merger between Comcast and Time Warner that apparently is not going to happen now. It looks like the Justice Cabinet finally weighed in and indicated they were not going to allow this merger to occur. Andrew and I have reviewed our steps relative to the cable franchise situation, and I'd like to give you this update. We believe that the negotiations that we went through, primarily with Charter Communications, are going to serve us well. We couldn't control whether or not this national merger occurred. But what we could control is whether or not we had positioned ourselves correctly in the event the merger did occur. And that was our responsibility, and we met that responsibility. And I think it was worth every minute that we spent, every hour that we spent on this cable negotiation. From our reading of this, Time Warner was a party to the agreement that we had with Charter. Our main interest in this entire negotiation was the line extension policy, so that our citizens can get internet and cable service as quickly as possible. Time Warner was a party to those discussions, and it is our belief that the line extension policy that we have negotiated will hold true with Time Warner Cable. We're going to go ahead and ask you tonight to have second reading of that ordinance. Then if Time Warner balks on that, we'll have our answer. But we think the work, the negotiations that we had in good faith will protect us with Time Warner as well.
When is the current franchise with Time Warner up? When does it end?
In about 2 months.
I believe it is, July of this year, but I need to double check that.
So if they're up on July this year, then we are negotiating into a new contract with them.
Correct.
Okay.
We believe, Karen, that by having second reading of our cable franchise ordinance, that we establish our expectations.
Okay.
And when Time Warner Cable goes to respond to a bid, they either meet our specifications or they don't. And we think that our proactive step is going to put us where we need to be. So we have not, we think that work puts us in a great position. We also think that over time, we can stay in a good position with the grant that we had negotiated from Charter.
Right.
Now, that was negotiated directly with Charter. But I have some expectation that that same deal be honored. And that's going to be my approach with Time Warner. And I'll let you know how that expectation goes.
Well, question, can that not be a part of the franchise agreement that they require? That, because you're asking them to require other things, can that be a part of it with equipment for, since that, what they're offering us to put it on TV is a part of the franchise agreement, correct? Can you put anything, any language into that?
You have to understand that the franchise ordinance is not with any particular party. It's sort of a legal dance, if you will. The Constitution technically requires you to advertise an open-ended cable franchise, and anyone can bid on it. So there really isn't a contract, and any kind of capital contribution we receive is not really part of the franchise.
I did actually read that franchise agreement, but is that mentioned that we actually, they put us on, let us have this airtime? Is that mentioned in that franchise agreement?
That is part of it, yes. The PEG access is part of it.
Okay.
Yes. But in-kind contributions, they don't view those the same way.
And the original equipment we have in here, the equipment that's in the back room is a part of Time Warner's equipment. The equipment out here is not. Is that correct?
No. If there's any piece of equipment back there that's Time Warner's, it's only one. The rest of it is ours.
Okay, gotcha.
The only thing that I think might be theirs is the thing that actually turns it into, that makes it go up to their signal. But all of the audio and video stuff and all the cameras and all the wiring, it all belongs to us.
Okay.
It was disappointing to read that merger didn't take place, although the findings of the Justice Department were a little scary, that they would control so much of the nation's internet traffic that it might create an unhealthy consumer situation. That wasn't in our best interest, but I do believe the work that we did with Charter was productive, and we'll still see the benefits of it. You all have received a memorandum from Andrew about quota license sales. Liquor by the drink where a restaurant is not involved. A bar.
Thank you.
The bar.
We wanted to be clear with you that through no action of the City Council, these circumstances have changed. This was not your initiative, but state law has changed. And state law is going to allow what they call quota license, or just a drink license, by the drink license, in Georgetown, as many as 12 throughout the community. Economics will dictate that there won't be 12, but our concern was, one, that the state had changed their regulations and changed some of the regulatory environment of our community without our involvement. We cannot change what state law has done, but what we wanted to make sure we had the ability to do is regulate this activity and tax this activity. We were originally scheduled to have first reading of an ordinance tonight altering our liquor ordinance to make sure we had the right to regulate and tax quota licenses. Upon closer review, our original ordinance included language that already gives you the right to regulate quota licenses and to tax that activity. So you've preserved that right. We can't change state law, but we do know that you've preserved your right to be able to regulate the activity. And just wanted you all to know that. We've had just one license picked up, not returned. But you do have the legal right to regulate this the same way you do package sales or liquor sales in a restaurant. You all may have noticed in the paper that the Executive Director of the Ambulance Service, David Sloan, has announced his retirement.
Yep. Sad to see that.
And David will retire at the end of May, I think June 1st. So pretty quick turnaround for, pretty quick trip out the door for David. But it works for him professionally and personally, and we wish him well with that. That interlocal is operated by county government, so they'll go through the hiring process and let us know what the status is. One of the best days we have each summer, well, actually it's been every other summer, but now it's happening every summer. Our Super Recycling Day is going to be on May the 8th. And really important day. May the 8th for Georgetown, Scott County residents, May the 9th, from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. at Toyota Gate 7. And all the ugly stuff in our garage, from pesticides to old paint, oil, they take it all. Used electronic components, old TVs, batteries, all the things that we shouldn't put in the landfill, these folks take, and they make it real easy on you. If you pull up with the pickup load, you don't even have to get out. Their volunteers start taking stuff out, and they'll take the paint out at one stop, and you drive up 15 feet, and they'll take the pesticides out at another stop, and you drive up a little further, and they'll pull out the electronics. It's a great day. And we are a financial sponsor of this. You all contributed $5,000 for our citizens to be able to do this activity. So just want to make sure you're aware of that. Mr. Hartley has asked me to let you all know that, I hate to announce deadlines, but I'll go ahead and announce deadlines. In 2 weeks, when we come back for your next council meeting, we expect for you all to have Wi-Fi access for your computers and other devices.
And I got on him tonight.
Don't worry. We'll make sure you get, it'll have to be a secure system with, passwords, so we'll make sure we get that information to you. But yeah, we got the equipment that we needed today. And
good, and that's the last thing I had under mayor's comments. Was that enough? We have a conflict?
Yeah, it's that Monday meeting that falls on Memorial Day Monday. Do we have a budget meeting sometime in there?
We're discussing the Monday after Monday is Memorial
Day. Yes, fourth Monday in May is
Vacation
Memorial
day.
Day.
usually.
Yeah.
Well, my suggestion, if you need to have a meeting sometime, you just call us and let us know. We'll show up.
Why don't we email you all what our proposed date is? That's right, that will be a conflict. Under the city attorney, city clerk portion of our agenda, item A is a second reading of the post-construction stormwater ordinance. We've talked to you all nearly to death on this topic. We've given you a lot of data. You've gotten a couple of memorandums in response to questions that you've asked, and a copy of the draft ordinance for a period of time. We're now ready for second reading and would be glad to go ahead with second reading. If we get a motion and a second, then we can have whatever conversation council wishes.
An ordinance related to stormwater post-construction maintenance within the city of Georgetown and amending various ordinances to comply with these provisions. Summary. Repeals and reenacts Section 1105 of the Georgetown-Scott County Subdivision and Development Regulations entitled Stormwater Management. Such reenactment sets forth the authority, purpose, and applicability for these changes, establishes a Stormwater Best Practices Manual, sets requirements for stormwater management plan approval, requires a performance security or bond be issued prior to permit issuance, sets the parameters for long-term maintenance of stormwater best management practices, provides for post-construction inspections, sets guidelines and procedures for the enforcement of these reenactments, establishes an appeals process for violators, sets the parameters for violations deemed a public nuisance, and establishes that the remedies listed are not exclusive. Renames Chapter 19, Article 5 of the Georgetown Code of Ordinances as Stormwater. Recodifies stormwater-related ordinances under Chapter 19, Article 5. Amends Ordinance Number 14-021 to reflect Chapter 19 name change. Provides for severability of provisions, repeal of inconsistent laws, and an effective date upon passage and publication. The full text of this ordinance is available for examination in the City Clerk's Office, 100 North Court Street, Georgetown, Kentucky, 40324.
Thank you. Is there a motion for approval?
Motion.
Motion's been made.
Second.
Second, Polly. Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion on this ordinance? And I'll just comment, because it's come up several times in our internal discussions today. This particular ordinance was sponsored by Mr. Thompson and Ms. Tackett. We appreciate your willingness to sponsor an ordinance so we can simply get it on the table for discussion. I've pointed out to some people, you know, a council member has the right to sponsor an ordinance and then vote against it. It's simply honoring the council's role and starting the dialogue from a council perspective. We have our consulting engineer here. She's been here patiently for many meetings. Kyle's here, Andrew's here. Be glad to answer any questions that you might have. If not, why don't we call the roll?
Mr. Bradley?
Yes.
Mrs. Conway?
Yes.
Mrs. Singer-Erdley?
Yes.
Mr. Lesby?
Yes.
Mr. Showalter?
Yes.
Mrs. Tingle Sains?
No.
Mrs. Tackett?
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
7-1.
Thank you. Motion carries. Item B is second reading of our budget amendment ordinance sponsored by Mr. Lesby and Ms. Tackett.
You're moving really fast.
Am I moving too quickly for you?
An ordinance amending the annual budget ordinance for fiscal year July 1, 2014 through June 30th, 2015. Summary. General Fund. Increase alcohol fine revenues $17,450. Increase penalty interest revenues $15,000. Increase property tax revenues $20,000. Increase community service expenditures $1,469.49. Increase transfers to Environmental Services Fund $25,000. Increase general government expenditures $23,500. Environmental Services Fund. Increase prior year revenues $251,348. Increase capital expenditures $251,348. Increase transfers from general fund $25,000. Increase stormwater expenditures $25,000. Grant fund. Increase local grant revenues $3,200. Increase fire department expenditures $3,200. Capital projects fund. Increase miscellaneous income $24,000. Increase road construction and improvements expenditures by $24,000. Authorizes the mayor to execute contracts consistent with budget and purchasing policy. All ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict with this ordinance are hereby repealed. This ordinance shall take effect after its passage and publication according to law. The full text of this ordinance is available for examination in the City Clerk's Office, 100 North Court Street, Georgetown, Kentucky, 40324. Publicly introduced and read for the first time April 13th, 2015. Publicly read the second time April 27th.
Thank you. Is there a motion for approval? Motion's been made, Mr. Bradley. Second, Ms. Tackett. If there are no questions, let's call the roll again.
Mr. Bradley?
Yes.
Mrs. Conway?
Yes.
Mrs. Singer-Erdley?
Yes.
Mr. Lesby?
Yes.
Mr. Showalter?
Yes.
Mrs. Tingle Sains?
Yes.
Mrs. Tackett?
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Thank you. Item C on your agenda is second reading of the digital submission ordinance. Since we discussed this pretty extensively at the last council meeting, I know Chuck sent an email to the council with a suggestion on that he would like to see added to the ordinance. That was been the only comment that I've received. So Chuck, I'd be glad for you to explain your proposal.
Talking to Joe, the minor plats that we're dealing with here could be small jobs like a dumpster pad at Little Caesars, which was one of his examples, and the other one was the paint expansion at Toyota, which was a huge difference in size of jobs. So I thought a good compromise might be, instead of putting these regulations and this burden on the little guy, the little business and the little job, that we put a disclaimer or a modifier in it to exempt the jobs that the cost would be more than 2% of the total cost of the job. I provided a few examples in that email to that. I just thought that would be a way to protect the little guy and the little job from having to go out and hire an engineer to produce a new plat, especially if it's an old piece of property in town where there's not a plat that already exists.
Okay. After Chuck sent the email and each of you all had a chance to receive it and review it, I thought the simplest thing to do would be we're prepared for second reading of the ordinance tonight, unless you want to move to alter that ordinance, and then we can see what the council feels about that, and we'll either take up the original ordinance or we'll incorporate your suggestion, depending on what council's wishes are.
Is that his suggestion, a substantial change to have a first reading on, right?
We think that it's a big enough change to where if council does wish to accept Mr. Bradley's suggestion, we would need to come back with another first reading after we incorporate that change. But we just thought the easiest way to deal with this was to let council discuss it, and then you can vote your wishes, and we'll either undertake a first reading of a different ordinance at the next meeting, or we'll have second reading of the ordinance that's before you, and we'll follow your all's wishes with it. So, Chuck, do you?
Well, I'll make a motion. I don't know if I'll get a second. Okay. But I'll make a motion that we add that modifier to the ordinance.
Okay, is that your second, Mark? Yes, sir. Okay. So I think what we're going to do first then is vote our butchered Robert's Rules of Orders here, parliamentarian. We're going to vote on Mr. Bradley's motion to make this change to the ordinance, and then we'll take your all's vote and proceed with whatever the next step is. Does everybody understand Chuck's motion?
I do, but could we get maybe an example or how you derive it, who qualifies and who doesn't? It's really
based on the cost of the job and the cost of doing the work that the planning and zoning will require to do the submission.
Right.
So if you go to an engineer and the engineer says it's going to cost you $500 to do this extra work, and the cost of the job is only $5,000, then that would be 10%, and they would be exempt. But if it's a job that would be $50,000, it would only be 1%, and they would not be exempt.
Okay. But 2% is the threshold, is that right?
The example was just 1%.
Yeah. Okay.
I just thought 2% was a good number to go, because they were talking about some of the jobs would be $400, and at 2%, $400 would be like a $20,000 job. Is that right? Or $2,000? Come on, I can do math real quick in my head here. I just, when I ran for council, one of my goals was to try to keep, government regulations from over-intruding in people's lives and business.
Yeah.
And I think this ordinance goes another step of being intrusive on people. And I think one thing we can do here is protect the little guy from being overburdened. And this is why I'm pushing this so hard.
Megan, are you here for Main Street or Planning and Zoning?
I'm here to represent planning and zoning. If you have any questions for me. I can't say that I know the exact costs, but I would be hesitant to put a 2% threshold. I mean, there may be some appropriate level, but to me, it seems that gathering information and making sure that it's accurate to the best of our ability. I agree that there might be certain situations where it's not as helpful, but the end goal of the ordinance is to make sure that we have accurate information and that it's collective so that we can piece together accurate information from the community at large. I've talked to Joe a little bit, and I think I wasn't here for your previous discussion, so you may have already talked about all of this. I don't know how much it will cost a surveyor and engineer to upgrade or rent equipment, but it seems that that could be tacked on to a cost, but in a way that it would add up over time, that it wouldn't be this huge burden. But, maybe there is an appropriate threshold. But I don't know that 2%. I would need to look at some examples in order to make a recommendation from my side, but that's the first time I've heard that.
I guess part of my thought, it kind of parallels what she's saying. I wouldn't mind some level of exclusion on this to try to help the little guy. And sometimes when we're in situations like this, I like to kind of put it back on like planning and zoning and let them tell us, hey, this is what we're trying to do. Why don't you tell us how to get there? Instead of us saying it's going to be 2%, maybe they come up with something that is suitable for them that we can all live with and still achieve what you're wanting to achieve.
Right now, the planning and zoning is doing all that work for minor plat.
Right. I'm just saying that maybe the 2% isn't the best formula. Maybe there's a different formula to come up with who's excluded. And I don't know what that would be, but maybe they do if we ask them. If we said, hey, this is our objective, how do we get there?
I thought about just a set amount, but then that doesn't correlate to the scale of the size of the project. So that's why I put a percentage in there for the size of the project.
Right. But I can see what she's talking about. Sometimes it's difficult to, they want to confirm what the price is going to be, and I guess you got to get a price from an engineer, you got to get a price from a contractor. And maybe sometimes going into the job, you might not even know what the cost is going to be until you get into it. I don't know. I'm just throwing something out. Trying to be helpful.
It's not that this would work in this situation.
Megan,
but
why don't
we
you come
have,
up to the...
for expansions, for amended development plans, for example, we have a 10% or 10,000 square foot limit. So if your project is a certain size, it's below that, we can do it at staff level review. Maybe there's a similar situation that we could look at that would be if a project costs X amount of dollars or is a percentage increase of a certain amount, maybe that's when it becomes appropriate to not require the GPS coordinates that would get it into the Kentucky State Plain. Because really what we're asking is being able to put geographic information into data that they probably already have. We just need to be able to tie it using GPS data. And so maybe at some point that's really not necessary, but at others it is.
Like adding a dumpster pad might not impact anything.
Yeah.
And therefore, maybe no information is really needed, and they could exclude something like that.
Yeah, really what we're looking for is buildings, parking lots, large enough surface area, things that would change stormwater runoff, things that, lot lines changing. That's what we need to get reflected in our system so we can actually run calculations and see what we have out there. So maybe there is a certain level that we don't need, but I think it would be important to look at.
Well, right now, the way the ordinance is written, we would be taking a whole exemption class out.
Okay.
Completely, 100%.
I understand. My thought would be then we table it and we ask planning and zoning to come back to us with, if we're going to do anything, this is what they would prefer and how it would be structured.
Would you make a motion to table it till then?
if that's what the council would like to do.
Well, we have
We've got one on the,
already.
you got yours on the floor.
Already have a motion and a second on.
Yeah.
We need to.
Unless they go back their motion in a second.
Yeah.
Would you like to withdraw your motion?
Okay, so if the motion to table doesn't overrule the other motion? No? Okay, then I'll withdraw my motion.
Mark, would you like to withdraw your second?
Yes.
Your motion to table?
Mayor, I'd make a motion to table.
A second.
Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
No.
Ho-ho.
On what? Oh, to table it, okay.
I just think it's being made complicated. It
I didn't know what we were voting.
We've got you on record.
What are we
I mean, we had an
tabling
opportunity.
the first one?
Seconded the table? Chuck.
Part of, if I did make the motion to table, what I was wanting to add is that we would request that planning and zoning come back to us with a recommendation on how to address these smaller issues.
And I think they've already done that, didn't they, David?
Or we can just postpone it. They can come back whenever,
Well, we're going to come back within 30 days.
in 30 days. Okay, so we're going to take it, okay.
So
Well,
that-
maybe,
That does fit.
okay.
What was did that pass, or are we debating? Where does that stand?
We're debating parliamentary procedure now. Now, the motion to table passed.
Okay. So you would like more information about if and where there's a threshold, what should that look like, and a recommendation within 30 days for a potential new reading?
I really think
First
there'll
reading.
have to be a threshold for some of the councils that voted to table it to pass this ordinance. Am I correct, Chuck? For the vote for the ordinance, is what I'm saying. Ian?
Yes, so come back with
Yeah, there
a
you go.
threshold.
There you go. There you go.
Okay.
Not find it, but yeah.
Megan, you know what you said just a while ago about when you're looking at something and and you kind of already exclude that, like you have like a, what was that you said?
That example that I gave was for an amended development plan, and we classify something as a major or minor. So if a commercial establishment wants to do an addition that's, 50% of their existing building size, that goes before the full commission. But if it's 10% or less, staff can review it. So it's different because it's a different type of information that we're gathering, but it's a different process based on the size and the amount of change that's
And is
happening.
that at your discretion, or do you have that in your ordinance, the 10%?
That's in our ordinance.
Okay.
But that's the division between major plat and minor plat, right?
That's for major development plan amendment.
Major and minor, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Doesn't have anything to do with what the requirements are under this proposed ordinance.
No, that's just what level of review is required. So in theory, I'm thinking there might be a similar setup for a size or scale for what level of information would then be required to be submitted in.
For the minors.
For the minors.
Right.
Effectively, right now, we require more information for our majors, but what we could do is require it for minors, but not all of them.
That's what I'm looking for.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Item D on your agenda is second reading of the cable franchise ordinance. Just referencing again my earlier comments about where we are with the cable situation. Polly, are you still okay with sponsoring this, or would you prefer?
Yeah, I spoke to Andrew about it, and we, addressed a lot of issues in it. And I'm okay with sponsoring it because it's just the franchise, to bid, and you all have done the negotiations. And from what I understand from Andrew, this is the best you could get, and it's better than what we have now. And just something, people have mentioned to me as I've been out, and I've done some research on it. This is for the cable TV, right?
Yes,
This
ma'am.
is for that. But, and I printed some stuff up. I did some work online. But in March, Lexington is doing something where they're doing, to be a gigabit city, where they're doing an RFI for information on doing a fiber optic network in Lexington. So just some things, just kind of to throw out there.
maybe there's some way at some point we could talk to them about hooking on. Other cities have done this in the past, and Andrew mentioned something which I had not heard about, was the statewide high-speed internet pipeline.
The backbone.
The backbone, which would really be good, and I think that, would kind of open us up to some other things, because I know, so many people have had such bad experiences with Time Warner, and when I, got Karen's email and saw that, I have to be honest, my heart sank, because I was like, oh, great, good, more Time Warner. But, anybody can bet on it. But, I do think there's some possibilities for the future I'd like us to kind of think about and open up to. And Kentucky is just known across the board for just, in Lexington especially, for having the slowest internet speeds. And I feel like here we have Toyota, we have all these companies coming here, and, we have dinosaur communications. So I would just like to see, down the road, maybe there's something that we can do to better what we have. And Time Warner's not the be-all and end-all, I guess I'm saying, and that's kind of what I see. But it's the best we have at the moment,
In terms of cable TV franchise, I think you're exactly right. Yeah. I also think that our opportunities on the high-tech backbone are virtually unlimited, and we've been exploring some of those possibilities. We may have some things that are even more exciting than what Lexington is talking about that we'll have to share with you before long.
That'd be great.
So, but have been aware of their gigabit city effort. They would be the second city in Kentucky. There are others on that path, and the prospects that we have with construction occurring at the interstate, where major fiber optic lines have to be moved, and opportunities that may extend from that, we're exploring.
Yeah, that's great. I just think that would just open up so much for everybody and just make it a better place to do business and live and everything.
Indeed. Well, then we are prepared for second reading.
An ordinance providing for grant of a non-exclusive cable television service franchise. Summary. Establishes terms and conditions for application for the grant of a non-exclusive franchise for the placement of facilities for the provision of cable television service within the confines of the city of Georgetown for a period not to exceed 9 years. Said franchise providing for compliance with applicable laws and regulations, full financial and shareholder disclosure for new franchises only, indemnification by the franchise grantee, and adequate insurance coverage, and 2 performance bonds. Establishes in the event Kentucky law is changed to authorize a local franchise fee equal to 5% of grantee's gross revenue. Establishes requirements for completing construction, providing data, testing the system, and meeting minimum operational standards. Penalties for violations of this ordinance, conditions of road occupancy, use of poles and construction standards, minimum requirements for extending the system, access to communications, facilities, public, educational, and government access channels, emergency alert override, antenna switches, standby power, testing and analyzing the system and proof of performance, consumer services standards, billing practices, complaint procedures, refunds to subscribers for failure of service, requires approval for a transfer of control, establishes standards and procedures for forfeiture of the franchise, valuation of the system, and foreclosure and receivership provisions, reserves government right in the franchise, requires assurances of non-discrimination and equal opportunity in employment and protections of subscriber privacy, provides for governance by state law, severability of provisions, and an effective date upon passage and publication. The full text of this ordinance is available for examination in the City Clerk's office, 100 North Port Street, Georgetown, Kentucky. Introduced and publicly read the first time, April 13th, 2015. Publicly read the second time, April 27th, 2015.
Thank you. Is there a motion for approval?
Motion.
Second.
Thank you, Chuck. Molly with the second. Are there any more questions? Yeah.
Mr. Bradley?
Yes.
Mrs. Conway?
Yes.
Mrs. Singer?
Yes.
Mr. Lesby?
Yes.
Mr. Showalter?
Yes.
Mrs. Tingle Sames?
Yes.
Mrs. Tackett?
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Thank you. Ordinance is approved. Finally, first reading of a zone change ordinance for Hill and Dale. I think each of you all have received Planning Commission report. This was, as I understand, this zone change request was consistent with the comprehensive plan. It was recommended by the staff, and it was voted for approval by the board. So it comes to us tonight as the first reading, sponsored by Mr. Thompson.
Yeah, I've seen Andrew today, and I know that wasn't on there, and as you said earlier, it's good to get these out in the open, whether I support it or not, but at least you can have a discussion about it once it's on our agenda.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you doing that.
An ordinance amending the Georgetown-Scott County zoning ordinance. Summary, amends the Georgetown-Scott County zoning ordinance to show a change in the zoning classification for certain real property consisting of a total of 24.56 acres total located at 252 McClellan Circle for 19.34 acres from community commercial, B4, to residential, R2, and for 5.22 acres from residential to residential R2 in the city of Georgetown, Scott County, Kentucky, provides for severability of provisions and an effective date upon passage and publication. The full text of this ordinance is available for examination in the City Clerk's Office, 100 Court Street, Georgetown, Kentucky, 40324. Introduced and publicly read for the first time April the 27th, 2015.
Thank you. We've got an extra copy of the staff report if anybody needs an additional copy of that report.
On this sheet, on this third sheet that's attached to it.
Yeah, that shouldn't be there.
There needs to be changes to that Sue Lewis's name.
That, he redid it.
I redid the ordinance since then. Sorry, I took that off of there.
We just wanted to get it in your packet.
Yeah, I didn't actually draft the ordinance.
Okay.
There are folks here, representatives from the developer, I believe. If you all have any questions.
I do, actually. Is it apartments? Is that what Is it apartments?
I'm
or-
Chapman Hopkins with Stalking, and I'll preface this by saying I'm standing in for Nick Nicholson, who's done the heavy lifting on this. I think Andrew and I corresponded via email today. As far as what the proposed development's going to be, other than what's in the plan itself with the two buildings listed, that's the extent of what I can answer. But I think that's consistent with what they're intending to develop.
How many units? How many people?
Based on what's in the application, it looked like 295 units.
So 295 units, almost 300. You have two people in each. Okay. Just kind of a concern I've had, and other people have brought up to me, is, strain on our services. Every time a new subdivision gets approved, a new thing goes through, a new zoning change, we increase the number of people here on our roads, on our resources, sanitation, police, fire, and we're already down 10 police of what we should have. A city of 30,000 should have 60 instead of 50. So I just think it's always something to think of that, we're adding more people, but we're straining our services. And this year with the snowstorm, we had so many things fall through the cracks because we were trying to deal with issues and our population has just so grown. So I just think people need to be aware that, adding that number of people. I mean, I hear all the time from everybody how worse traffic is getting over and over. And I know that's just what happens with growth, but, it's just something to be aware of, I think.
Understand.
Mayor, can I mention, just to maybe shed a little light on the situation? I'm not in any way, shape, or form involved with it, but the property is already zoned, and it did have some level of residential component to it. And I think there was even a commercial component that would have probably drawn even more traffic, perhaps. But the reality was that plan wasn't going to work, and I think the economics of the community have probably dictated that they're going to change their strategy. And I think that's why we're looking at the plan that's probably going to be coming for us.
That's entirely correct, and that was the one thing I was going to note is that this is actually a reduction back to R2 for that from the planned commercial.
Any other questions? Thank you. We'll plan on voting on this at the next meeting.
Thank you very much.
I just couldn't decide if I should call on you or Bob first.
Bob's still awake.
This won't take long.
He's actually doing okay.
I knew that Stacy's quarterly update would not take long.
Just bringing you a quarterly revenue update on some of our major revenues. And sorry this didn't get in your packet last week, but it was a busy week with budget meetings, so giving it to you tonight. Did everybody get one?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. The first one, obviously, our payroll tax collections, and you can look and see that this is through the end of March collections, so typically through returns through February, we are at $7,573,842 of our $10,825,000 budget. That's 70% of our budget collected. At this time last year, we were at $7,029,663. That's a 7.8% increase through February of last year. So payroll taxes are going strong. And you'll see that number reflected in so far we're $544,000 ahead of last year. On the next one, the net profits. Of course, I show you the numbers as they are, what collected, but in my notes, and feel free to take some notes if you like. I've tried to back out the Toyota numbers so that you can kind of see those for what they are. So in 2014 through March, if you take out the Toyota payments, we were actually at $818,810. And in 2015, through the end of March, if you take out Toyota, which is $1.8 million, that leaves us with $1,017,589. That is an increase of $198,779, or approximately 24% increase on our net profits, excluding Toyota.
Is that in here somewhere?
No.
Or is it just information?
They're in my notes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
We look at it on the whole. Of course, I could take Toyota out of these numbers. I haven't. I'll show you what it is to date, but it was $1.8 million this year so far. That's actually, I don't know if they planned on making a fourth quarterly payment, but that's only 3 quarters. They may have done that. So the next one, insurance premium tax collections. This is the only one that right now we're trending down compared to last year. At this point last year, we were at $1,291,557. We're at $1,180,834. That's a difference of $110,000. I went ahead and tried to project on through the end of the year. Right now, we're down 8.5%, and if we stay down 8.5% for the whole year, then our revenues would be approximately $2,201,628. So we're still on track to make budget, but last year just was a high year for some reason. I'm not sure if there were some late returns filed, or we kind of take those returns as we get them. They send them in on a quarterly basis, but and obviously hundreds of insurance companies send returns into us quarterly. So like I said, trending down compared to last year, but still on target to make budget. Property tax collections, obviously at this point, there's still a few that trickle in, but you don't expect a lot these last few months of the year. We budgeted $1,370,000. We originally budgeted $1.5 million, made the reduction when we reduced the personal property rate. So we had brought in $1,463,090. Compared to this time last year, that's down about $40,000, but we're obviously at 107% of our budget, so we've already beat the budget projection. This includes both current and delinquents, and that's the part of why you see sometimes that revenue go
above what your property tax would bring you on a current year, because any delinquent taxes are in there as well. And finally, the alcoholic beverage regulatory fees. For the first 2 quarters, I went ahead, you'll see highlighted in yellow, we have not completed our collections for the quarter January to March. I went ahead and put in what we had at that time, which was $105,768. A lot of those come in the last day of the month. And so there's still more to be had, so don't be worried by that number. But comparing just the first 2 quarters of the fiscal year, $455,169 for this year compared to $375,764 last year. We're up $79,404. So that is up 21% from the first 2 quarters last year. I'm interested, as I'm sure Tracy is, to see what the January to March quarter is. It's probably one of the lower times in the winter months for alcohol usage, so we'll see if it trends closer to last year or if it jumps back up. Obviously, football season's over, no warm weather, not as much drinking going on, I guess. We'll see how it trends. I expect it to trend higher than last year, but probably not as high as the first 2 quarters, I wouldn't suspect. Any questions?
It looks like we're going to be over our budget, though.
Yeah.
Yes.
Very much
Definitely.
Yes.
And one of the things that we discussed with the Finance Committee before we came into the council meeting, revenues are robust as we enter the home stretch of the final budget period before we have our incentive reduction. We're in good shape. We just need to manage this and be careful about the way we finish the budgetary process. But this is exactly the picture we wanted to see as we come into the preparation for our new budget. Any questions for Stacy?
Good job.
Looks good.
Thank you.
Thank you, Stacy. Next on your agenda is Bob Wilhite,
We're going to take a break.
GMWSS.
My answer is no.
You lost, Bob.
Right off the bat.
And Ms. Conaway promised to keep me awake tonight if I dozed off, so I appreciate that. First item I have tonight is approval of a purchase order to Culy Contracting for the low bid amount of $11,714. This is to line the wet well at pump station number 14 and to line the wet well and valve vault at pump station 11. This will come out of the pump station rehab line item in our budget, and the board approved this item on April 21st.
Make a motion for approval, Mayor.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. If there are no questions, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay. Next is approval of a purchase order to Martin's Pipeline Inspections for the low bid amount of $11,474 to inspect and video 10,928 feet of the drainage area at pump station 19. This will come out of the collection system upgrade line item in our budget, and our board approved this item on April 21st.
Make a motion.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. About $1 a foot, it looks like, Bob.
Mm-hmm.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
All right. Last purchase order to Dearinger Excavating in the amount of $41,480 to replace the Elkhorn Creek Park water line. Prices are based upon his bid contract for this year. This expenditure will come out of our annual water line upgrade line item, and the board approved this item on April 21st.
Mr. Thompson?
Second.
Second. Ms. Early? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Bob, did you mention that was a unit contract?
Yes, that's our contract that we bid out, and we have a whole schedule that we get bid prices for so many feet of water line, if it's in the street, out of the street, concrete repair, setting a meter on the same side of the street, double set meter, so we have a whole schedule. And those prices are good for a year.
Good. For the I mentioned that for the council's benefit. As we've been working with Mr. Goodwin, we've been talking about bidding some of the materials we need for Public Works and the City Engineers Department based on unit bids. so that we lock in those per unit prices, and then later we can apply those per unit prices to a project, not have to go through a fresh bid process. It's an accepted method of procurement, and for some services and commodities, it's an ideal way to.
Yeah, it streamlines the process, saves you a lot of time.
It's worked well for you all.
Yeah, we've been doing it for several years. It's worked really well.
Yeah, we're gonna be bringing you all that concept with some of our future work.
Mayor, may I make a comment? Bob had 3 items on the agenda, and we went through those in about a minute.
What are you saying?
It used to be Bob was right after your comments, the water company. Whether you would take that into consideration, putting him up a little higher, so.
How much is he paying you?
He ain't,
for it to
Bob,
be
I
his
hadn't said a word to you about this, have I?
No.
But I'm just saying, I mean, for a minute or so, he's sitting there for an hour and a half.
That's true.
I mean, that would be my suggestion. Whether you take it under advisement or not, I don't know. But Bob, I tried.
Thank you, Mark.
Do you agree?
I agree.
But I'm not sure. I mean, you make the agenda. I'm just saying, the water company used to be right after the comments, if I'm not mistaken.
I think so.
Because usually we don't have much issues unless you're trying to bring water raise, and you don't want to, you'd stay down real low.
The beauty of this is that Bob and GMWSS get such a good feel for all the city business.
I believe Bob has had enough feel.
Too good of a feel, I think.
I will certainly take your suggestion under advisement. Bob, anything else tonight?
That's all I have, Mayor.
Oh,
All right.
okay.
Thank you all.
Checks in the mail, Bob.
It's actually a point well taken.
I mean, think about it.
He's a professional.
Yeah,
It's the easy stuff. Get the easy out of the way.
I am delighted to bring to your attention item number 12 on your agenda for Public Works. The municipal order approving a bid for a garbage truck.
11?
Pardon?
We missed 11, the update, please.
Oh,
But he's going to let him go later. I guess, Chief, you got kicked down one, and Bob's going to go up.
I've been so excited about buying a garbage truck. Chief, we'll get right to you.
We went out to bid a week ago. We got one bid from Municipal Equipment for an automated, one-armed garbage truck, and I recommend that we accept that bid.
Meets all of our specifications.
All of our specification. It is the same brand, same model of the one that we have already. That means our service people are experienced with working on it. I have 5 trained operators that can operate the truck that we have, this new truck that we get. This will give us 2, which will put us around 1,400 cans of garbage for 1,400 residents being serviced every day by 2 men. So that really cuts our labor down a lot. It's a very efficient machine, very efficient.
I'm especially pleased to report to the council that our effort in rebidding this did not cost us more money.
I noticed it's cheaper.
Yeah, I noticed it.
Well, it's actually the same price.
I thought it was a little cheaper.
And it's been consistent throughout. So the fact that we stumbled early in this process did not cost us money.
Did you get because the issue last time was not everybody's question because they didn't get contacted.
Notification.
Did you get notification? Did you do a special notification to everybody, or did you just?
We bid it, we advertised it, and we did it by our normal process.
Because this time we only got 1. Last time we had 2. But
We did have a dialogue.
We had a no bid from the bidder, the other bidder from last time. They were not able to even come close on our delivery request time. We wanted a 30-day delivery, and the best they could do was 9 months out. And they sent a response back that their factory is at capacity right now. They would not be able to come close to delivery time and would like to reserve the right to bid on future items with us. So.
okay. So we contacted them, tell them that the bid had been
cost out the last time and told them that we were rebidding it again.
And to watch for the advertisement, which it turns out our letter to each of the bidders had never included a commitment to notify them of a specific bid opportunity. It did say, after reviewing our bid and making any necessary changes to the bid form and/or specifications, we do plan to advertise and rebid for the purchase of an automated side-loading garbage truck. We hope that your company will still consider responding to any future bids on this item or any other bids for which your company is able to provide the specified items. So we have been completely true to the process. And if you are ready, we'll read the municipal order.
An order approving the purchase of an automated side-loading garbage truck for the sanitation department in the amount of $251,348, using prior year revenues and authorizing the mayor to sign all relevant documents. Whereas the purchase of an automated side-loading garbage truck is necessary to maintain the sanitation truck fleet in order to provide timely, efficient, and cost-effective service to the citizens of Georgetown, and whereas prior year revenues of $251,348 will be used to fund the purchase and will be added to the garbage truck's capital purchases account 30-810-50-30 via subsequent budget amendment, and whereas municipal equipment had the lowest responsive bid in the amount of $251,348. Now therefore it is hereby ordered by the Georgetown City Council that the purchase of an automated side-loading garbage truck from Municipal Equipment Incorporated in the amount of $251,348, the bid response from which is attached hereto and incorporated herein by reference, is approved, and the mayor is authorized to sign all relevant documents.
Is there a motion for approval?
Make a motion.
There you go.
Oh, gosh.
We want you to have a
Get that garbage truck now.
It was from over here. Who was the motion?
Well, these two young ladies right here.
Together, it doesn't matter.
I'll second it. She did.
Yeah.
Motion's been made and tripled. If there are no further questions for Linda, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Done. Thank you, Linda. Chief Bossy, could you join us at the podium?
I have to put a plug in for Lowe's, who's working with us to help us with our trees and our shrubs around the police department. So we're going to be working with them. And that time's coming up pretty quickly. So you can see that they're leveling off the back parking lot, and talked to Dirk the other day. They'll start paving here before too long, so that the workers can move from our communication center over to the actual lot of the police department. The furniture is scheduled to be delivered on June 12th. That's the new stuff from KDI and SDI, the two furniture companies that we used, and that's about it. So, and we put the water meters in today, so
Yay!
or so we approved them.
Thank you, Chief.
Chief, what is your estimated time of being able to occupy?
Well, that's kind of a secret.
Okay.
Oh,
we don't even know that. We know the furniture can go in on the 12th,
Okay.
but they're reluctant just because they just never know if they're going to run into something.
Okay.
So.
In terms of the
after June
certificate
12th.
of occupancy, they're going to let the furniture occupy it, but
Yeah.
They're
not
gonna see if it
necessarily,
fits first, right,
not
Bob?
necessarily the chief who gets to
Closer
occupy.
than you were.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, that's awesome.
Thank you, Chief. Now we're at that portion of the meeting for council comments. David?
No, sir.
Mark?
no, sir.
Molly?
I did have a couple.
Yes, ma'am.
I got a call about the Longlet Cardinal Drive intersection, and I know that was written about in the paper, and about getting some help there, just directing traffic. And I talked to the chief about it, and he said it's a two-man job, and that they just don't have the manpower right now. They're kind of in a quandary. Is there anything else? Would the sheriff's office be contacted, or?
That's who used to do it.
That's what I thought. I thought Steve Southworth used to do it, right?
Yeah.
Because it's becoming dangerous, and it's, you know, with traffic.
And frankly, Polly, we've had a couple of crossing guards injured.
Oh, I know. Oh, I know. Oh, I know. So that's the problem. That's what they were asking, if there's a way to get police help with it, because the crossing guards are
And We'd be glad to check with the sheriff to see if they could assist us. We told you at the last council meeting about the CMAQ grant. The Congestion Mitigation and Air Quality Grant, which is aimed at stopping cars from just idling in place and not getting anywhere. We had a really good session today where we put together from the city. Mr. Hartley was with me. Kyle was with us. So we had city engineers, city attorney, and myself. The superintendent was there along with 3 members of her staff and the judge. Since we would be the applicant on this CMAQ study and the other 2 would be our partners. So we had to get a pretty firm understanding of their willingness to commit to the application with us. And it was a really interesting conversation, Polly, in that we talked about various approaches that the engineering analysis could help us figure out, even as we prepare the application.
Yeah, that's good.
And we put on the table some ideas that at least I hadn't explored before, one of which is to make Cardinal Drive one way during certain time periods during the day.
Yeah.
And could that affect unloading patterns and traffic patterns in a positive way?
Yeah.
School's intrigued about that possibility. We're intrigued about it, but it's going to be a part of the analysis. You know, we voted to hire a consulting engineer to help us put the application together.
Yeah, no, yeah, we talked about
They're going to consider that scenario as well as widening scenarios to help. We also focused part of our discussion as we try and fix Cardinal Drive is we also looked at the necessary to improve Long Lick Pike as you travel from Champion along Long Lick to approach a left onto Cardinal Drive.
Yeah.
That's going to require some stack room and a dedicated left turn lane. So we think this, to be effective, this needs to be a more comprehensive project, including the traffic light at US 25 and what is Champion on one side and Long Lick on the other. Signalization there becomes very important. For this entire triangle of 25, Long Lick, and Cardinal Drive to work well. So we're looking at substantial engineering analysis and a grant to help us with construction.
I think that would really be helpful.
That's our longer term, bigger fix. Chief, the question's been asked about, given our concerns about crossing guards and the danger for those folks and your staffing limitations. We want, Ms. Singer-Early wondered if that might be something that we could do in a cooperative way with the Sheriff's Department and maybe get some more.
Well, the sheriff's always been, the door's always open, so we can certainly sit down and see what kind of manpower he's got. We can't put crossing guards in the Long Lick. You can't put them in that intersection. That's a traffic control post that takes a sworn officer.
Well, the difference, I think, is if you have a police officer's car, sheriff's car sitting there from lights going, traffic slows down tremendously without, they're they're going right on down the road.
And that's that intersection's so big, it's a two-person intersection. So, but we can certainly sit down with the sheriff and talk about it. But we've considered that. Can we put crossing guards? And there's just no way you can stick a crossing guard in an intersection like that. It's dangerous for police officers with lights on, because you would have to have lights in the intersection. But frankly, we don't have the manpower to put two guys there a day because they take them off of calls. So.
And it shouldn't all fall on the city to do it anyway. It should be, if it's going to be done, it needs to be at least shared.
How many schools is the city monitoring in the mornings?
Oh gosh, I'd hate this. I
mean,
really,
from the police officer standpoint.
How many crossing
police
guards?
officers? No, police officers are at school entrances, at the ingress or egress of schools.
We don't use them unless we only replace the school guard, the crossing guard.
Well, the sheriff's department, they are doing that. They are at schools. I see it. So when we talk about fairness, we got to think about what's the sheriff doing right now. We need to know those facts before we, I mean.
Because we provide the crossing guards, right? The crossing guards are
all through us, yes.
through the city, and if the sheriff is going out to the schools.
Yeah, he's got a couple of them out there.
Yeah.
The Cardinal Drive is just such a difficult assignment. It would be, there's not even a place for an officer to stand and completely be protected.
Oh,
from
yeah,
some of that
that's
traffic.
You're right
hard
dead
to
middle.
visit.
It's crazy out there.
2 times a day.
It's a good idea.
It's just really, really difficult.
Really, it's not really doing.
So we're looking at longer term fixes, we're looking at long lick, we're looking at signalization, and if we can get some short-term help, we're glad to do that. We discussed with the superintendent today that it's difficult for us to lend assistance if we end up having workers' compensation rates skyrocket on us because we're trying to help them. We want to do our part, but
They can help a little bit too.
it was a pretty, I thought it was a pretty collaborative conversation. I'm optimistic about what this grant might be able to do for us. Anything else, Paula?
Yeah, I did. I had some people ask me about the parking lot on the corner, the buildings that were torn down, all that, and what's going on with that, I guess. Has there been any progress or change?
We've renamed it.
I know, it's been renamed. Center Point 2.
Center Point.
Or Center Point Junior. Center Pond.
That's a flip answer. We have engineering estimates. We've asked for an update to the drawing after we sat down with our partner, who is the county, in this project. There are some areas where Judge thought we could maximize more parking. And in fact, I think next week we're scheduled to have the consulting engineers who are helping us draw the plan sit down with both us and the county to look at what some of the suggested changes are. And we're getting much closer to a real cost estimate.
Oh, okay, because we had talked about that, how the estimate had changed.
I think when the prior council first considered this project, they did so, and the fiscal court considered the same project with some cost estimates that weren't complete.
It was an estimate.
It was an estimate, and it was a great estimate to get started. It wasn't a good estimate to get completed. So we think that we'll have much more precise cost estimates. The judge has made it clear what his desire is to do with the project, and he wants to be our partner all the way through, the entire bite, even the part down by the Justice Building. We had considered phasing it with those of you that have had the chance to show the plans just because of the cost involved. The county's willing to go ahead and take the entire bite at one time, which would give you some efficiencies. It would make it look better quicker.
Yeah.
But it also has a budgetary impact on us. So we are working, even though you're not seeing anything move down there, we did agree to an extension of the contract with the company that has it fenced.
Oh, okay.
Just so we could maintain our center point
project.
But we do hope real quickly to have you more specific information to work with.
Because I remember when we had chatted about it, how many more additional spaces are they saying that it would be?
It's one of the issues that the judge wants to sit down with our consulting engineer about. Because of our request that the project meet planning and zoning requirements, even though legally we don't have to, we think we should, then we're introducing islands and sidewalks through the parking lot. Those erode the number of available spots. So we can't have as many spots as it is if we just have an acre of blacktop back there that's striped off. But we want to look at where we can strategically put some of those medians to maybe get a few more of the parking places back. The net add was, I think, something in the range of 20 to 30 parking spots. It wasn't a huge number. Even it's higher now. Well, now that we changed the area by the Justice Building and tweaked some of the islands, we want to get as many parking spots as we can and have it what I would call a legal and useful parking lot, to where there's too much slope right now. Your car door is too heavy.
It's bad.
And it doesn't meet code right now because the slope is too great. But if there's a way that we can do a tiered situation right behind City Hall, then we would lower the grade on the rest of the parking lot and probably make it into a grade level that we can be comfortable with. So stay tuned.
Okay.
And my comments about Center Point are just flip comments.
Mine too.
We really are looking at a serious project.
It's in the front page.
we joked about it, but we joked about it before, so.
No. Anything else, Polly?
No.
Millie? Good. Karen?
I had two people come in the shop and talk about it. I think it's Darby Lane or Street. It's a road that runs right behind, right in front of the hotels and behind Kentucky Fried Chicken and Darby Drive. That there's trucks parking on either side of the street, and it's very hard to get through. And they say, especially if you come down and you cut through there in the morning, the way the sun shines, that one of the ladies said she almost hit a truck that was parked there because she simply didn't see it. But they're parked on both sides of the street through there.
That's
and they're
the
the
construction
18-wheelers.
people, right? The people that's bringing stuff in.
Sometimes
Oh.
they're hauling cars.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of them are the ones that are hauling cars, but they're parked on both sides of the street, so if they get at least limited, so they can only park on one side of the street, that would help going through there. So I don't know, is it marked?
Private or public.
I'll look at it.
Okay, look at it and see.
Thank you.
That's a dangerous situation there because
Yes.
they come from Champion, go through there and cut to go to Walmart instead of going on up to the next intersection.
They cut through there
I'm
to go to
guilty
that
of it
light.
myself.
But you're not driving a semi.
No, there are a lot of the semi, they're parked there overnight to sleep
Yeah.
now. I don't know why they're sleeping at the hotels when they can sleep in the semi, but nevertheless,
They
whatever's
get,
going on.
they get paid for not sleeping in a hotel. They get paid sleeping in that truck.
Yeah, so why are they parked on our public street, if it's our public street? And so there's.
Want to go out to Pilot?
Can I make a quick comment?
Yes, sir.
When people come to you with issues, can you just ask them to take a picture of it, send it to me? It's a lot easier and it helps me get to a lot more issues.
Or if you go out there in the morning and take a picture of it before you come to work or something, it usually is in the morning, but I'll try to
It
go
would
over
help
there
me
and
out,
take a
that's all I'm
picture.
saying. Thank you.
Good. Anything else, Karen?
That's it.
Thank you.
I know you have a lot on your plate and a lot, doing the budget and all that kind of stuff, but I just want to know where we are as far as doing something with our city hall. Okay. Budget.
Well,
6.3.
We were shocked a couple of weeks ago when one of the storms that had a driving rain from the south to the north, and it hit City Hall in a way that we hadn't seen before. It was raining inside the mayor's office. It was raining inside Arlene's office. There was a creek running from the front wall through building inspection to the back door. It was the worst we had seen. And it made me realize, Connie, that we didn't need to spend any money Band-Aiding anything, and we didn't need to spend any money making something attractive that is so functionally obsolete or just a problem. So it actually caused me to kind of stop and back up and wonder what the best approach to this building is. Any old building reaches a tipping point when it's not cost-effective to Band-Aid it anymore. You have to do substantial repairs. And given the conditions that we see, we're beginning to think, do we need a real evaluation of this building by an architect and/or engineer about this is a public asset, and it's our job to protect it. And today, I'm not sure about what our best next step is.
I just want to keep it on the forefront. I don't, I just want to keep people aware of it, that it's deteriorating.
Oh, yeah.
And I appreciate that. On the corner of my desk, I've got a piece of limestone that's about 50% bigger than this phone and a little bit thicker. And that stuff is scaling off of the front of the building. Ann Bevan's history of this building says that when they started construction, the citizens complained about how ugly the brickwork was. And the City Hall architect went back and faced the front and the side with the limestone.
Now you're going to see the old brick for long.
You're going to see the old brick. But the problem is limestone is very porous, and it scales. And if during the day, if you'll look at the front of City Hall, in particular, stand right under, you'll move real quick, but stand right in front of the front door of City Hall before you come in and look up. And the limestone ledge that is right beneath Arlene's window has a crack that runs almost the entire width of that.
You sound like Cardone.
And earlier this week, Arlene picked up a piece bigger than this phone right in front of the front doors that had scaled off and fallen, and it would have left a mark. It would have hurt.
You might want to get hard hats for
I
everybody.
know, I was going to say.
Construction zone.
I'm scared to walk out the door.
We don't want to alarm anybody, but we do think we've got an obligation to determine the condition of this building, because it's not that good. So it is on our mind. Thank you.
I just wanted to make sure that we're not letting it go to the wayside.
I know.
And looking into it.
And looking into it.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's good.
Chuck?
Nothing further.
Thank you. Mark?
Are there any updates on either one of the bridges that have been impacted by the state government?
No, I passed around one of the bridge inspection reports, and I had the other one on my desk to bring down to let you all see, but Norfolk Southern has not yet started repairs on their bridge. We have put them on notice that it is their bridge, and our desired outcome is for them to fix it.
I'll follow up with them this week to see if we can get a status update. The last we heard from them was, we'll get back to you. And that's been a while.
Yeah. Railroads might be the most unresponsive entity that I've ever encountered. But you keep asking, and we will keep asking. Anything else to come before the council tonight? Motion for adjournment.
Motion.
Thank you.
Take long, did it? Oh, see, Dave.
Hey, Chuck.